The great meeting hall on Space Station Kepler-7 was bigger than most city blocks. Back on Earth, Jake Morrison stood at the entrance and looked at the curved walls that rose up like a metal canyon. Lights from a dozen different worlds cast strange shadows across the floor. The air smelled like ozone and something sharp that made his nose itch. Jake was not a young man anymore. His gray hair was cut short in military style, and his blue uniform carried the gold stars of an Earth Fleet admiral. Behind him walked Lisa Carter, the best diplomat Earth had ever sent to the stars. She wore a simple black suit and carried a briefcase full of treaties and agreements that took her team months to prepare. Next to her was Colonel Ben Taylor, a quiet man with dark skin and careful eyes who knew more about alien military strength than anyone else in human space. We're here to make peace. They were here to find a way for humans to live alongside the other races that called the galaxy home. Jake hoped it would work out better than he expected it would. The meeting hall was already full when they arrived. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat in sections designed for their particular body types. The Zealothi delegation occupied the largest section, their tall blue bodies gleaming under the bright lights. Their leader, Ambassador Kethvar, was 9 feet tall, with 4 arms and eyes like black marbles. He had been dealing with younger races for over 200 years and thought he knew exactly how this meeting would go. The Thornians sat in their own area, though calling them individuals was not quite right. They were part of a hive mind that stretched across dozens of worlds. The creature that represented them here looked like a cross between a giant ant and a spider, but it spoke with the voice of billions. When it talked, every Thornian in their empire heard the same thoughts at the same time. There were others, too. The plant-like verdants who moved slowly and thought even slower. The energy beings called Flux, who appeared as glowing clouds contained in special suits. The rock creatures from the heavy worlds who had to wear powered frames just to move in. Normal gravity. Each species had ruled space for thousands of years before humans ever figured out how to leave their own solar system. Jake took his seat at the human table. It was smaller than the others and placed slightly apart from the main circle. The message was clear enough. Humans were newcomers here. They were children asking to sit at the grown-up table. The council recognizes the human delegation, announced the session moderator, a silver robot that belonged to no particular species. You may present your case. Lisa Carter stood up. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but her heart was still beating fast. Honored representatives, we come here in the spirit of cooperation and mutual benefit. Humanity seeks to establish formal relations with the Galactic Council. We offer our friendship, our knowledge, and our commitment to peaceful coexistence. She activated her holographic display. Images of human colonies appeared in the air above the table. New farms on distant worlds. Cities growing under alien suns. Children playing in parks on planets their grandparents never dreamed of visiting. In the 30 years since we achieved faster-than-light travel, humans have established colonies on 47 worlds. We have developed new technologies for farming, mining, and manufacturing. We have explored systems that were previously unmapped. We have done all of this while maintaining peaceful relations with every species we have encountered. Ambassador Kethvar made a sound that might have been laughter. His translator device turned it into words that filled the hall. Peaceful relations. Yes, we are aware of your expansion, young humans. Perhaps too aware. The Thornian representative spoke next, its voice carrying the weight of collective thought. In 30 of your years, you have claimed more territory than most species acquire in 300. This rate of growth is ... concerning. Lisa had expected this objection. Our expansion has been carefully planned to avoid any conflicts with established territories. We have claimed only uninhabited systems or worlds that were abandoned. We have not displaced any existing populations or violated any territorial agreements. Because there were no agreements to violate, said a new voice. The speaker was from the Keth Empire, a militaristic race that controlled a large section of the galactic arm. Your species began expanding before joining the galactic community. You did not seek permission. You did not follow established protocols. Jake. Morrison felt his jaw tighten. He had been a military man for 40 years, and he knew when someone was trying to back him into a corner. But this was Lisa's show, and she was good at her job. We are here now, Lisa said calmly, seeking to formalize our relationships and establish those protocols going forward. We want to be part of the galactic community. On whose terms? Asked Ambassador Kethvar. He stood up, all 9 feet of him, and his 4 arms gestured toward the holographic display. You have shown us what you have taken. Now we will tell you what you must give. The holographic display changed. Now it showed a map of human space, but nearly half of it was marked in red. The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding human territorial claims, Kethvar announced. 17 of your colonies are in violation of the Territorial Stability Doctrine. These worlds must be evacuated and returned to neutral status. Jake Morrison's hands clenched into fists under the table. 17 colonies. That was nearly 500,000 people who would have to be relocated. Families who had built homes and lives on those worlds. Furthermore, the Thornian representative added, all human military vessels must be registered with the Council Defense Authority. Your fleet expansion will be limited to 3% growth per standard year. All new colony ships must receive Council approval before departure. And finally, said a representative from the Scientific Assembly, all human research into advanced physics and space-time manipulation must be conducted under Council oversight. Your scientists will work alongside appointed supervisors to ensure that dangerous technologies are not developed without proper guidance. The room fell silent. Jake Morrison looked at Lisa Carter and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. This was not a negotiation. This was a surrender demand. Lisa stood up again, but her voice was not as steady as before. These terms are extensive. We would need time to consult with our government. The terms are not negotiable, Ambassador Kethvar said. They represent the minimum requirements for human integration into galactic civilization. Your species has grown too quickly and too independently. This expansion must be controlled before it becomes a threat to established order. A threat? Jake Morrison spoke for the first time since entering the hall. His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the large space. In what way do human colonies threaten anyone here? Kethvar turned his black marble eyes toward the human admiral. Your species reproduces quickly. You adapt to new environments with unusual speed. Your technology develops at an alarming rate. Left unchecked, humans could outnumber and outcompete established galactic civilizations within a few centuries. So, you want to slow us down. We want to control you, the Thornian said bluntly. Every successful species in the galaxy has learned to accept guidance from their elders. This is how galactic civilization maintains stability. Jake Morrison stood up slowly. He was not as tall as the aliens around him, but something in his posture made the entire hall pay attention. And if we refuse these terms, then you will find that galactic civilization can be ... inhospitable ... To those who choose to remain outside it, Ambassador Kethvar replied. Trade restrictions, territorial blockades, technological embargoes. Your species will discover the costs of isolation. Lisa Carter tried one more time. Surely we can find a compromise. Some middle ground that addresses your concerns while allowing humanity to continue growing. The terms are final, the Thornian stated. Accept integration under Council authority, or accept the consequences of remaining outside galactic civilization. Jake Morrison looked around the hall at the 12 species that had just delivered an ultimatum to humanity. These beings had mastered space travel when humans were still discovering fire. They had built empires that spanned hundreds of worlds. They had technologies that seemed like magic to human scientists. And they were afraid of a species that had been in space for less than 50 years. Jake Morrison picked up his cap from the table and placed it carefully on his gray hair. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady, but every word carried the weight of finality. We came here in good faith, seeking friendship and cooperation. We offered to share our knowledge and our worlds. We asked only to be treated as equals among the community of intelligent species. He looked directly at Ambassador Kethvar. Instead, you have chosen to treat us as children who need to be managed, as a threat that needs to be contained, as a problem that needs to be solved. Jake Morrison turned toward the exit. Lisa Carter and Colonel Ben Taylor fell into step behind him. This negotiation is over, Jake said without looking back. Humanity will find its own path forward. The three humans walked out of the great hall in complete silence, leaving behind a room full of alien representatives who believed they had just successfully put the upstart humans in their proper place. They had no idea what they had actually done. The news traveled fast through human space. Within hours of Admiral Morrison's departure from Kepler-7, every human colony, every space station, and every ship captain knew that the peace talks had failed. The Galactic Council had demanded surrender, disguised as integration, and humanity had walked away. On Earth, President Carol Hayes sat in the Oval Office of the Global Government Building and read the full report 3 times. She was a small woman with silver hair and steel in her backbone, the kind of person who had spent 30 years in politics without losing her principles. The report from Admiral Morrison was clear and detailed. The aliens wanted to cut human expansion in half, control human military growth, and oversee human scientific research. They wanted to make humanity into a junior partner in someone else's empire. President Hayes activated her communication system and sent a message to every human world at the same time. The quantum relay system made it possible for her words to reach the farthest colonies instantly, a technology that most aliens still considered impossible. My fellow citizens, she began, her voice steady and calm. Today, humanity was offered a choice between freedom and security. We were told that we could have a place in galactic civilization, but only if we accepted limits on our growth, restrictions on our military, and oversight of our science. She paused and looked directly into the camera. We have chosen freedom. The president's speech was only 10 minutes long. She did not declare war. She did not threaten revenge. She simply announced that humanity would pursue its own path forward, outside the control of the Galactic Council. She thanked the human diplomats for their efforts and praised Admiral Morrison for his principled stand. But the most important part of her speech came at the end. Effective immediately, all human citizens working in alien territories are invited to return home. All human commercial contracts with alien corporations will be allowed to expire naturally without renewal. All joint research projects will be concluded, and our scientists will return to human space. She did not make it sound like an order. She made it sound like an opportunity. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Human merchants who had been selling goods in alien markets suddenly found urgent business back home. Human scientists working on joint research projects discovered that their families needed them. Human diplomats serving on interspecies committees realized that their skills were required elsewhere. Within 2 weeks, the great exodus began. Captain Ryan Brooks commanded the patrol ship UHS Defender, one of dozens of human vessels that regularly worked alongside alien fleets to maintain peace in the border regions. His crew was mixed species. including a Zealoty communications officer named Velcon, who had served with humans for 5 years. Ryan received his new orders on a Tuesday morning while his ship was docked at a neutral trading station. The message was simple: return to Earth Fleet Command immediately for strategic reorganization. Transfer all alien crew members to appropriate vessels before departure. Velcon found Ryan in his ready room, staring out the small window at the stars. "Captain, the crew is asking questions about our sudden departure. What should I tell them?" Ryan Brooks was a good officer and a decent man. He had served alongside aliens for most of his career and considered many of them friends. But he was also a human, and the events at Kepler-7 had awakened something in him that he was only beginning to understand. "Tell them that humanity is going through some changes," Ryan said. "Tell them that these changes don't affect our friendship or our respect for other species. But tell them that humans need to take care of human business for a while." "And what is human business?" Velcon asked. His translator made his curiosity sound almost human. Ryan looked at his alien friend and smiled sadly. "Nothing you need to worry about, Vel. The pattern repeated itself across human space. Human vessels returned to base. Human workers requested transfers. Human researchers packed up their projects and went home. It was all very polite and professional. No one broke any contracts or violated any agreements. But within a month, human presence in alien space had decreased by 80%. The aliens noticed, but most of them were not concerned. Ambassador Kethvar issued a statement calling the human withdrawal a predictable response to diplomatic disappointment. He predicted that humans would return within a year, ready to accept the Council's reasonable terms. The Thornian hive mind was less certain. Their collective intelligence had analyzed thousands of variables and possibilities, and something about the human response did not match their predictions. Humans were reacting with organization and purpose, not with anger or desperation. "They are planning something," the hive mind reported to an emergency council session. "The withdrawal is too coordinated, too complete. This is not the behavior of a defeated species." "They are sulking," Kethvar replied dismissively. "Young races often react poorly to their first encounter with galactic reality. They will return when they realize that isolation is worse than regulation." But even as he spoke, intelligence reports were arriving that made some council members uncomfortable. Human space was not showing signs of economic collapse or political chaos. Instead, activity was increasing. Ships moved between human worlds at unprecedented rates. Construction projects appeared on previously uninhabited planets. Energy signatures from human territory suggested massive industrial expansion. Dr. Amy Foster had been humanity's representative to the Galactic Science Council for 3 years. She was a brilliant physicist who specialized in quantum mechanics and space-time theory. Her alien colleagues respected her intellect, but considered her ideas about faster-than-light communication and instant matter transportation to be interesting but impractical. Amy received her recall orders while working on a joint project to study subspace anomalies. Her alien research partners were sorry to see her go, but not particularly surprised. Humans, they believed, were still too primitive to appreciate the value of collaborative research. Amy packed her personal belongings and said goodbye to colleagues she had worked with for years. She did not tell them about the breakthrough she had achieved 2 months earlier. She did not mention the successful test of instantaneous matter transmission that her team had conducted in a hidden laboratory on the far side of human space. She did not explain that human science was about to make everything they thought they knew about physics completely obsolete. Instead, she smiled and promised to stay in touch. On Earth, in secure facilities buried deep underground, human scientists and engineers worked around the clock on projects that had been theoretical just months before. A failed peace talks had done something unexpected. They had united humanity in a way that nothing else could have. For 30 years, humans had tried to fit into galactic civilization. They had accepted junior partnerships and secondary status. They had shared their discoveries freely and asked for little in return. They had genuinely believed that cooperation and goodwill would earn them a place among the stars. Now they understood the truth. The galaxy did not want partners. It wanted subjects. President Hayes held daily briefings with her military and scientific advisors. The reports she received would have terrified the Galactic Council if they had been able to hear them. Human technology was advancing at an impossible rate. Projects that should have taken decades were being completed in months. Theories that had been purely academic were becoming practical applications. How long until we're ready? The president asked during one particularly intense briefing. Admiral Morrison, who had returned to Earth to oversee the new strategic initiatives, looked at the data and made his calculation. 6 months, maybe less. The first phase will be ready for testing within weeks. Full deployment by the end of the year. And the aliens will not suspect anything until it's too late? They think we're primitive and defeated, Admiral Morrison replied. They're not watching us closely because they don't believe we're capable of anything that would surprise them. He paused and looked out the window at the city beyond. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The transformation of human space continued at an accelerated pace. Old colonies expanded rapidly. New settlements appeared on worlds that had been surveyed but never developed. Mining operations began on asteroids that had been ignored for decades. Construction fleets worked constantly, building something that the alien intelligence networks could not quite identify. The galaxy watched this activity with mild interest but little concern. The Galactic Council's economic analysts predicted that human expansion would slow dramatically once they realized the costs of operating without alien trade partners. The military experts believed that human fleet growth would stagnate without access to alien technologies. They were all wrong. In the outer reaches of human space, on a small world called Haven, construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's first practical application of instantaneous transportation technology. The device looked simple enough. A silver arch about the size of a doorway, surrounded by equipment that hummed with barely contained energy. Dr. Amy Foster stood before the arch and checked her readings one final time. Behind her, a team of engineers and scientists waited to see if months of theoretical work would translate into practical reality. Beginning test sequence, Amy. 6 months after the humans walked out of the peace talks, the galaxy began to notice that something was wrong. It started with reports from deep space, monitoring stations scattered throughout the outer rim territories. These automated sensors were designed to watch for unusual energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, and signs of unauthorized military activity. They had been doing their job quietly for decades, sending routine reports that rarely contained anything interesting. Now they were screaming warnings that made no sense. Commander Zeth Prime of the Zelethi Deep Space Command stared at the data streaming across his screens and tried to understand what he was seeing. Energy readings from the outer regions of human space showed massive power sources that dwarfed anything in the galactic database. The signatures were consistent across dozens of locations, suggesting coordinated construction on an unprecedented scale. Run the analysis again, he ordered his technical staff. Check for equipment malfunction. The analysis came back the same. The readings were real. Z.E.T. Prime activated his emergency communication system and sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. Within hours, similar reports were arriving from monitoring stations operated by every major species. The humans were building something in the dark spaces between their colonies, something that required more power than most planetary civilizations used in a year. The Council's response was swift and predictable. A joint investigation fleet was assembled under Zealothy command with representatives from 6 different species. Their mission was simple: find out what the humans were doing and make sure it did not violate any galactic treaties. The fleet departed for human space 3 days. After the first reports arrived, they never made it to their destination. Captain Susan Walsh commanded the human supply convoy that was approaching the colony world of New Plymouth when the Zealothy blockade fleet moved to intercept her. She was a career officer with 20 years of experience running supply routes to the outer colonies. Her ship, the UHS Pathfinder, was a standard cargo vessel with minimal defensive capabilities. The blockade commander's message was broadcast on all frequencies. Human vessel, you are entering space under Galactic Council authority. Submit to inspection or be turned away. Captain Walsh reviewed her orders and smiled grimly. For months, human supply convoys had been forced to take long detours around alien patrol zones. Human colonists had struggled with shortages of essential supplies while their own ships were blocked from reaching them. The aliens had made it clear the humans could only travel through space with their permission. Today, that was going to change. Zealothy Fleet, this is Captain Susan Walsh of the UHS Pathfinder. My convoy is carrying medical supplies and food to New Plymouth Colony. We will complete our mission as scheduled. The response was immediate and angry. Captain Walsh, you will stop your vessels and prepare for inspection. Any attempt to proceed will be considered an act of aggression. Susan Walsh touched a control on her command panel and activated systems that the Zealothy could not detect. Around her, the rest of the convoy did the same. 12 cargo ships suddenly became something else entirely. Zealothy Fleet, would you like a demonstration of our new shipping methods? Before the alien commander could respond, Captain Walsh's convoy simply vanished. The 12 human ships did not accelerate away or jump to hyperspace. They did not turn invisible or hide behind some kind of screen. They simply stopped existing in that location and started existing somewhere else. In the space between one heartbeat and the next, the entire convoy materialized on the other side of the New Plymouth system, well within the planet's defensive perimeter. The Zealothy fleet commander stared at his sensors and tried to process what had just happened. His ships were equipped with the most advanced detection equipment in the galaxy. They could track objects moving at near light speed. They could penetrate most stealth technologies. They could analyze energy signatures from across a solar system. But they had not detected anything when the human ships disappeared. No energy buildup. No gravitational distortion. No subspace displacement. The humans had violated everything. The aliens thought they knew about physics. How did they do that? His tactical officer asked. The commander had no answer. Word of the incident spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Emergency sessions were called. Expert analysts were consulted. Intelligence networks were activated to gather more information about human activities. What they discovered was terrifying. The humans had not just developed a new form of faster-than-light travel. They had created something that made the very concept of distance meaningless. Ships, equipment, and entire populations could be moved instantly from one point to another without regard for the space in between. But that was only the beginning. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the main laboratory on Earth and watched as her communication device established a connection with research teams scattered across human space. The quantum entanglement transmitter allowed for instantaneous communication over any distance, something that alien scientists had declared theoretically impossible. Testing long-range communication, she announced to teams on 47 different worlds. Please confirm reception. The responses came back instantly, as if all the teams were in the same room. Scientists on colonies hundreds of light years apart could now share data and coordinate research in real time. The implications for human technological development were staggering. Amy Foster had been working on these theories for years while serving on the Galactic Science Council. Her alien colleagues had dismissed her ideas as interesting but impractical. They had explained patiently that certain physical laws could not be broken, certain barriers could not be crossed. They were wrong about that too. The revelation of human technological capabilities sent shockwaves through alien space. Species that had considered themselves technologically superior were forced to confront the possibility that they had been surpassed by a civilization they had dismissed as primitive. The Thornian hive mind was the first to grasp the full implications. Their collective intelligence analyzed the available data and reached a conclusion that terrified them. Humanity had not just advanced beyond alien understanding, they had done it while maintaining the pretense of being less advanced. They lied. To us, the hive mind reported to an emergency council session. For years, they participated in our research projects and scientific exchanges while secretly developing technologies that make our knowledge obsolete. Ambassador Kethvar rejected this conclusion. Impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected any major technological breakthrough. The humans lacked the scientific infrastructure for such advances. Then explain the instantaneous transportation, the hive mind challenged. Explain the real-time communication across galactic distances. Explain how they developed these capabilities without our knowledge. The answer came from an unexpected source. A Zilithi intelligence officer who had been monitoring human scientific publications made a disturbing discovery. For the past 5 years, human researchers had been publishing papers on quantum mechanics and spacetime manipulation that their alien colleagues had ignored or dismissed. The papers had been written in clear, accessible language. The theoretical foundations had been laid out step by step. The mathematical proofs had been made available to anyone who wanted to study them. The humans had not hidden their research. They had simply published it in forums that aliens considered beneath their attention. They told us exactly what they were doing, the intelligence officer reported. We chose not to listen. The realization hit the Galactic Council like a physical blow. Humanity had offered to share their scientific knowledge freely and openly. They had presented their theories at conferences and submitted their research for peer review. They had even invited alien scientists to participate in their projects. The aliens had ignored these offers because they believed human science was too primitive to be worth their time. President Carol Hayes received the first reports of alien panic with grim satisfaction. The galaxy was finally beginning to understand what humanity was capable of. But they were only seeing the visible applications of human technology. The truly revolutionary developments were still hidden deep beneath the surface of Earth. In laboratories that did not officially exist, human scientists were pushing the boundaries of what was possible even further. Matter manipulation on the molecular level. Energy generation that drew power directly from the quantum foam of spacetime. Manufacturing techniques that could produce materials with properties that defied conventional physics. But the most important project was taking place on a small moon in the outer system, where Admiral Morrison was overseeing the construction of humanity's first truly advanced starship. The UHS Titan was not just larger than anything else in human space. It was larger than anything else in the galaxy. 5 miles long and bristling with technologies that existed nowhere else. It was both a statement of human capability and a promise of what was to come. How long until she's ready for trials? President Hayes asked during her weekly briefing with military leadership. 2 weeks for basic systems, Admiral Morrison replied. Another month for full operational status. But even in basic configuration, she outclassed anything the aliens can field. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 12 species shouted accusations and demands while holographic. Displays showed the extent of human activities across the galaxy. What they saw defied everything. They thought they knew about territorial expansion and military logistics. Human mining operations had appeared overnight on asteroids that surveys had declared too remote to be economically viable. Human exploration vessels were detected in star systems that should have taken years to reach using conventional faster-than-light travel. Most disturbing of all, these operations were clearly permanent installations, not temporary expeditions. Ambassador Kethvar stood before the assembled council and tried to maintain his composure. For 200 years, he had managed relations with younger species by demonstrating the overwhelming superiority of established galactic civilization. The formula was simple: show the newcomers their place, offer them limited partnership under strict oversight, and watch them fall into line. It had always worked before. The human expansion must be stopped, he declared. They are violating fundamental principles of galactic order. No single species should be capable of this level of territorial growth without council oversight. The Thornian hive mind responded with the cold logic of collective intelligence. How do you propose to stop them? Our fleets cannot catch their ships. Our blockades cannot contain their movements. Our sensors cannot track their technology. Then we apply economic pressure, suggested the representative from the Trade Federation. Cut off all commercial relationships, embargo their goods, isolate them from galactic markets until they agree to negotiations. What markets? Asked a voice from the back of the chamber. The speaker was a minor official from the mining guild who had been tracking commodity prices across the galaxy. Human trade with alien species dropped to less than 5% of previous levels 6 months ago. They're not dependent on our markets anymore. The room fell silent as the implications of that statement sank in. The humans had not just developed new technology. They had achieved complete economic independence from the rest of the galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar activated his personal communication device and sent an urgent message to human space. The response came back within hours, carried by the same instantaneous communication system that had allowed the humans to coordinate their expansion so effectively. General Kyle Patterson appeared on the main display screen of the council chamber. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes, wearing the uniform of Earth Fleet Command. Behind him, the bridge of his ship was visible, showing technology that the aliens could not identify or understand. I am General Patterson, commanding the UHS Titan. I understand the Galactic Council wishes to discuss recent human activities. The sight of a human military officer addressing the council from the bridge of an unknown vessel sent ripples of unease through the assembled representatives. The implications were clear. Humanity now had military capabilities that they had chosen to reveal. General Patterson, Ambassador Kethvar began. The Council demands an explanation for unauthorized human expansion into unclaimed territories. These activities violate established protocols for territorial acquisition. General Patterson's response was delivered in a calm, professional tone that somehow made his words more threatening than if he had shouted them. The human position is simple. Humanity will establish colonies, mining operations, and military bases wherever we choose. We will defend our interests with whatever force we deem necessary. We will trade with species that treat us as equals and ignore those who do not. You cannot simply ignore galactic law, protested the Trade Federation representative. There are procedures for territorial claims. There are treaties that govern expansion rights. Treaties that we were never invited to sign, General Patterson replied. Laws that we had no voice in creating. Procedures designed to benefit established powers at the expense of newer civilizations. The Thornian hive mind spoke with the authority of billions of linked minds. What are your intentions regarding existing territorial boundaries? Will you respect the sovereignty of established civilizations? General Patterson's answer was both reassuring and terrifying. We have no interest in your worlds or your politics. Humanity seeks no conflict with existing civilizations. But we will not be restricted, regulated, or threatened. Make your own conclusions about what that means. Before any of the council representatives could respond, General Patterson demonstrated exactly what humanity was now capable of. Across the galaxy, 3 major Zealothi military installations simultaneously lost all power. The blackouts were complete and instantaneous, affecting everything from life support systems to defensive shields. For exactly 1 hour, these critical installations were completely vulnerable. Then, just as suddenly as they had lost power, all 3 installations came back online. Every system functioned normally. Every piece of equipment worked perfectly. But in the most secure areas of each installation, security teams found small devices that had not been there before. The devices were harmless. They were simple transmitters that broadcast a single message in perfect Zealothi. This could have been something else. The demonstration sent shockwaves through the assembled council. Humanity had reached into the heart of Zealothi military space and placed objects in their most secure facilities without being detected. The installation's defensive systems had not even registered an intrusion. How did you penetrate our security? Ambassador Kethvar demanded, his composure finally cracking. General? Patterson's response was matter of fact. The same way we do everything else now. We went where we needed to go and did what we needed to do. Your security systems were designed to stop threats that move through normal space and time. They were not designed to stop us. The implications hit every representative in the chamber like a physical blow. If humans could place harmless transmitters in the most secure Zealothi facilities, they could just as easily place weapons. Or worse, what do you want? The Thornian hive mind asked bluntly. What are your terms for coexistence? We don't have terms, General Patterson replied. We have a reality that you need to accept. Humanity is no longer seeking permission for our expansion. We are no longer asking for approval of our activities. We are no longer interested in junior partnerships or supervised development. He paused and looked directly into the camera, as if he could see each council member individually. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, but only if you stop trying to control us. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy. Human settlements appeared on worlds that had been surveyed but never claimed. Human ships traveled routes that cut through previously empty space, ignoring established shipping lanes and border controls. Human technology operated on principles that alien scientists could not explain or duplicate. The Mining Guild reported that human operations were extracting resources from asteroids, using techniques that achieve 90% efficiency compared to the 40% that was considered excellent by galactic standards. The Trade Federation discovered that humans were producing materials with properties that should have been physically impossible. The Military Alliance found that human ships could appear anywhere without warning and disappear just as quickly. Ambassador Kethvar convened a private meeting with the senior council members to discuss response options. The choices were limited, and none of them were good. Military action is not feasible, reported Fleet Admiral Zen Carr of the Combined Defense Force. We cannot engage targets that we cannot track or predict. Human ships appear to exist outside normal space-time constraints. Our weapons are designed to hit objects that follow predictable paths. Economic warfare is equally ineffective, added the Trade Federation representative. Humans are not dependent on our supply chains or markets. They have achieved resource independence that makes traditional pressure techniques useless. Diplomatic pressure requires leverage that we no longer possess, the Thornian hive mind observed. Humans are operating from a position of technological superiority. they have no incentive to negotiate. The reality was becoming clear to even the most stubborn council members. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Humanity had emerged from isolation, not as a defeated species begging for readmission, but as a civilization that no longer needed anyone else's permission for anything. Dr. Amy Foster stood in her laboratory on Earth and reviewed the reports coming in from human operations across the galaxy. The instantaneous communication network allowed her to coordinate research projects spanning hundreds of worlds in real time. The transportation gates made it possible to share equipment and personnel without regard for distance. In 6 months, human science had advanced more than it had in the previous 30 years. Technologies that had been theoretical dreams were becoming practical applications. Projects that would have taken decades to complete were being finished in weeks. "How are the aliens responding to our latest demonstrations?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Carl Weber, who was monitoring alien communications networks. "Panic, mostly," Carl replied. "Their scientists are trying to reverse engineer our technologies based on." The galaxy had not known true fear for over 1,000 years. The established powers had grown comfortable with their positions, confident in their technological superiority, secure in their belief that they understood the limits of what was possible. Now they faced something that challenged everything they thought they knew about civilization, power, and the nature of reality itself. Panic spread through alien space like a virus. Some species called for immediate military action against humanity before their technological advantage could grow even greater. Others advocated for desperate diplomatic overtures, hoping to secure favorable relationships before it was too late. A few simply retreated into isolation, closing their borders and hoping that the human revolution would somehow pass them by. The Thornian hive mind was the first to grasp the true scope of the situation. Their collective intelligence had analyzed every piece of available data about human capabilities and reached a conclusion that terrified them more than any military threat could have. "We have made a fundamental error in calculation," the hive mind announced to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. "We treated humanity as a minor power to be controlled. We assumed that their rapid growth was a temporary phenomenon that could be managed through traditional means." The chamber fell silent as the implications of this statement settled over the assembled representatives. "We were wrong," the hive mind continued. "Humanity has not simply advanced beyond our current capabilities. They have advanced beyond our ability to contain or coerce. They have become something that galactic civilization has never encountered before. A technological civilization that operates outside our understanding of physical law." Ambassador Kethvar rejected this assessment with the desperation of someone whose entire worldview was crumbling. "Impossible. No single species can advance so far, so quickly. There must be limits to their capabilities. There must be weaknesses we can exploit." "What weaknesses?" the hive mind challenged. "They can travel instantly to any point in space. They can communicate across galactic distances in real time. They can penetrate our most secure installations without detection. They have achieved complete resource independence and technological superiority. What leverage do we possess against such capabilities?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy, each one more disturbing than the last. Human settlements now existed in star systems that had been considered unreachable. Human mining operations extracted resources from locations that should have been impossible to access. Human exploration vessels had been detected in regions of space that the most advanced alien civilizations had never successfully explored, but the most troubling reports came from alien scientists who had begun studying the physical principles behind human technology. Their findings suggested that humanity had not simply developed better versions of existing technologies. They had discovered entirely new ways of manipulating matter and energy that made alien science look primitive by comparison. Dr. Velprime, the galaxy's leading expert on theoretical physics, submitted a report that shook the foundations of alien confidence. After months of analysis, his team had reached a conclusion that no one wanted to believe. Human technology operates on principles that we do not understand and cannot duplicate, he wrote. Their capabilities suggest mastery of quantum mechanics, space-time manipulation, and energy generation that surpasses our most advanced theories by centuries. If these observations are accurate, then humanity has achieved a level of technological development that places them beyond the reach of any coalition we could assemble. The report was classified at the highest levels, but its conclusions leaked quickly through the intelligence networks that connected the major powers. The galaxy's scientific community was forced to confront the possibility that everything they thought they knew about physics was incomplete. President Carol Hayes stood before the assembled leadership of Earth's government and prepared to address the crisis that was developing across the galaxy. Intelligence reports indicated that several alien species were considering military action against humanity, while others were actively seeking alliance agreements. The situation was unstable and dangerous. The galaxy is afraid of us, she announced. To the room. Not because we have threatened them, but because we have demonstrated capabilities that they cannot understand or control. They are reacting to that fear in predictable ways. Secretary of State Helen Park raised the obvious question. What do we do about it? We give them a choice, the president replied. We make our position clear in terms that leave no room for misunderstanding. We offer them the opportunity to coexist peacefully, but we also make it clear that we will not tolerate threats or aggression. The president activated the quantum communication system that connected Earth to every major alien government simultaneously. This would be humanity's final statement on the matter of galactic relationships. Representatives of the Galactic Council and peoples of the galaxy, President Hayes began, her voice carrying clearly across the vast distances of space. I am President Carol Hayes of the United Earth Government, speaking on behalf of humanity. She paused and looked directly into the camera, knowing that her words would be heard by billions of intelligent beings across dozens of worlds. 6 months ago, humanity was offered a choice. We were told that we could have a place in galactic civilization, but only if we accepted limits on our growth, restrictions on our military, and oversight of our science. We were asked to become junior partners in someone else's empire. Her voice remained calm and steady, but there was steel beneath the diplomacy. We declined that offer. We chose to pursue our own path, to develop our own capabilities, and to build our own future. The results of that choice are now apparent to everyone. The president activated a holographic display that showed the extent of human expansion across the galaxy. Hundreds of new colonies, mining operations, and research facilities had appeared in the past 6 months, connected by transportation and communication networks that operated on principles alien science could not explain. Humanity has achieved technological independence. We no longer require permission for our expansion. We no longer need approval for our activities. We no longer seek validation from civilizations that treated us as children to be managed, rather than equals to be respected. She paused again, letting the implications of her words sink in. But we are not conquerors. We are not seeking to dominate other species or impose our will on alien civilizations. We have no interest in your internal politics or territorial disputes. We simply want to be left alone to pursue our own destiny among the stars. The president's tone shifted slightly, becoming warmer but no less firm. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us. There are millions of star systems that remain unexplored. There are countless worlds that could support life. There are resources and opportunities beyond the imagination of any single species. We see no reason why humanity and the established civilizations cannot coexist peacefully. Then came the warning that every alien leader had been dreading. However, humanity will not tolerate threats or aggression. We will not accept blockades of our shipping. We will not permit interference with our colonies. We will not allow other species to dictate the terms of our existence. President Hayes looked directly into the camera, her expression grave but determined. We have demonstrated our defensive capabilities. We have shown that we can reach any target, anywhere in the galaxy, without warning or detection. We prefer peaceful coexistence, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. The holographic display changed to show the UHS Titan and dozens of similar vessels under construction in hidden shipyards throughout human space. The message was clear. Humanity's military capabilities were growing as rapidly as their civilian technology. The choice is yours, the President concluded. You can approach us as equals seeking mutually beneficial relationships. You can ignore US and pursue your own affairs in your own space. Or you can treat us as a threat to be eliminated. Her final words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Choose wisely. The consequences of your decision will affect not just humanity, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate a new reality that most of its leaders were still struggling to understand. The response was swift and decisive. Within days, 3 distinct camps emerged among the galactic powers. First group, led by several smaller species that had been marginalized by the traditional powers, immediately sent diplomatic missions to human space. They offered trade agreements, scientific exchanges, and mutual defense pacts based on principles of equality and respect. The second group, including most of the established civilizations, chose to maintain a cautious distance from humanity while quietly reassessing their own technological capabilities. They neither threatened nor embraced the humans, preferring to watch and wait while the situation developed. The third group, consisting of the most militaristic and prideful species, began making preparations for what they saw as an inevitable conflict. They could not accept the idea that a species they had dismissed as primitive could become dominant so quickly. Admiral Jake Morrison, now serving as human,